Hey, deserving listeners, sister wives, let's watch.
Do you understand that you lie? That's the reason I call you the Teflon Queen. Because you're lying about what has happened and what's been going on.
It's wild to me that you think I lie because I think you're manipulating.
Well, tell me how I'm manipulating. Oh, no. Tell the whole world. Tell the world.
Interesting. We've never seen that. Pointing at the camera, tell the world. Yeah, I mean, I've been saying, and it's fairly obvious that we're not just watching two people arguing. We're watching two people arguing in front of the world. They know they're on stage. It would be silly for them not to know that. And to have that affect their demeanor and their behavior, it makes total sense, right? And it would be totally normal that they would be trying to argue with the person and garner sympathy or empathy from the audience. Totally natural, right? Even if it wasn't conscious, you could imagine people doing that. But we've never seen someone actually, I can't remember. Let's run that.
Well, tell me how I'm manipulating. Oh, no. Tell the whole world. Tell the world. And then go hang out with your buddy Christine.
The second time watching it, it makes me wonder if what he's saying is an accusation of tell the world, like you always tell the world, that I'm a horrible, abusive person, or confirm what they say about me. Because I've been wondering what toll the public conversation, which is, I've noticed this when I first started watching reality TV and reacting 5 years ago. I was just, reacting normally. And I kept being told by people that I was so wholesome. And I thought, or that I had so much empathy for everyone. And I thought, well, I don't, that's wholesome. No one's ever called me wholesome. No one in my friend group or family would ever call me wholesome. Maybe when I was a kid, I don't know. But, I don't mean to criticize it. It's a nice compliment. There's worse things to be called for sure. But I thought, okay. And then I started to dip into conversations that were going on, like on other YouTube channels and other places. And I came to realize that how, I don't know what to say, just how extreme. And, there were good guys and bad guys. And to me, I was just watching a lot of reasonable people suffering the sorts of things that everyone suffers from. We can point to some bad behavior and say, that's crossing the line or that's not okay. But there's usually a reason why people do that from their perspective. It doesn't make it okay that they're doing it, but it's not evil the way that people were making it out to be. So I'm just going to take a guess and say that if they go online and look at the discourse, which I'm guessing they do, they are horrified, particularly him, to read what people are saying. I don't know, but I'm guessing people are saying that he is an abusive, narcissistic tyrant. And there could be a case for that. There is some data along those lines in the last couple seasons. But I wouldn't be surprised if people were saying that in the first couple seasons. And the sister wives, up until recently, wouldn't, at least on paper, they would never claim that, And there wasn't, again, could be, but it wasn't, there wasn't any data that supported that for a number of years. Now, you could make an argument we're watching abuse happen on the edit. So anyway, and so that could be a factor in his turn, in his anger, in his depression, in his anxiety, in his seeming effort to make Christine and now Janelle look like the bad guys in the breakup, because he's trying to manage the public perception of him, which is a mistake.
Yeah, I mean, this is one thing about being public and our lives being recorded, is we hear things that we don't say to each other's faces.
I made all the effort.
Right. So that's another thing I've been wondering about is in their one-on-one interviews, it's natural to be a little bit more honest without your partner or your family member in the room with you. And then those people end up watching those episodes or those clips and are like, whoa, I didn't know that's how they felt about it, or that's humiliating, or yeah, she told me that behind closed doors, but did you have to say it to the entire world? Ouch. So that's another factor. You could argue that, it's interesting to think, like, if they never went on a reality TV show, if they were just one of the polygamous families that were in that area, if they would be in a completely different place. We could imagine that, right? We could imagine that being true, which is interesting. And one could argue it's a good thing that they were on display, and it gave Christine and, because one version of this story is that if we just look at Christine, it's possible that in her being on the reality TV show, she started to interact more with the world, get feedback from others, and start to wonder about things. Maybe there's things that she's observing that she's getting validation for from the internet, maybe for good reasons, for valid reasons. And then things kind of grow. Because, Christine, if we just look at her, she looks like a complete different person from the first season. Now, she's older and things are different. But she seems much more like a modern, contemporary, free woman, whereas in the beginning, it was something different, Now, that might have happened naturally because the kids get older and blah, 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 but it is interesting to think about.
Efforts to love them. I made the efforts to join them together. I made the efforts to make everything work. I made the effort. I was Atlas carrying this family on my shoulders, and the minute that I shrugged it off,
I think you decided you didn't want to be a plural husband anymore. Cody, I think you're trying to do this all to justify. Christine is gone.
What am I justifying?
You're pushing me
what
out
am
the
I
door.
justifying?
Yeah, that's the way it looks. Janelle has a good head on her shoulders. Even in this conversation, she's been very reasonable. And that's the way it looks. She would know way better than I would. So that's at least validation for the sad hypothesis.
You're now pushing me out the door.
No, I'm not.
Feels
Man, I
like it.
show up here.
Choose between my children and me. Cody, it's been a week. You've gone a week and you don't call, you don't come. I don't ever know when you're going to come. It's like you're just doing this really weird.
Are you really doing a relationship with me? I need you to stop blaming me.
Occasionally on camera, the sister wives, Christine and now Janelle, will out him for not physically even showing up, which he has no defense for. And as I've been saying, if he wants a divorce, if he doesn't want to be a polygamist anymore, or if he doesn't want to be with Janelle, if he doesn't want to be with Mary, if he doesn't want to be with Christine, that is his effing prerogative. Everyone has the right to say, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. That's fine. But the implementation and the trickery or the deflection or something, the manipulation, whenever she and Christine, it's rare that they'll actually put numbers to it in front of the camera of, you haven't been here in a week. When you have 3 wives, I should have seen you just 2 days ago or something. Others, I think Janelle and Christine, one or both, would say, I haven't seen you in like a month or something like that. Or if it is pointed out he hasn't had contact with some of his kids for a long time, he always has a really quick defense to that doesn't make any sense. It's this smokescreen tactic that he has. So, she's saying you haven't been here in a week, and then he, as a smokescreen, says, well, you have put no effort into this relationship, which I highly doubt. Now, maybe she's putting less effort because he has been pushing her away, but I doubt that, if he were to turn it around and be warm with Janelle and Mary, I think they would eat it up.
They brought COVID home from that. The whole time saying, Dad, we're being careful. We're doing everything you're telling us to. But they weren't. and they're blaming me for the choices that they had. They were not culpable. That is not gaslighting. That is
You made
accountability.
this about all these other problems that we have that we can't sleep under.
I
This
did
became,
not.
Yes, you did.
I
You
did
said,
not. I
"We're
did
an
not. I did
alcohol-"
not.
Wow.
Stop talking like I'm just an
Janelle's, wow, what's happening? You're like a cartoon of a child acting like a dad. I did not. Yeah.
idiot here.
Well, then stop talking to me like I am.
Janelle, I've seen what you've done this entire time. Number one, you undermined the basic rules I had. You made fun of me to the boys. See, if you ever had my back, have you ever been a team with me? Have we ever co-parented?
So I don't know if she's just realizing, oh my God, he is so far gone, I'm just going to pull back, or if she is passively agreeing that she did make fun of him behind his back, which isn't great. If even, some of you might be divorced co-parents with someone, and it's hard. Especially when your ex is, and there's a lot of different situations, case by case, but in a typical situation, your ex might be doing something unreasonable and you hate it, that's why you divorced them, and your kid runs into the same behavior, and the kid comes to you, it's like, oh, dad's doing that thing again. And you just impulsively roll your eyes with your kid. It's like, oh, I know what you're talking about. It's hard not to do that. Generally speaking, we want to refrain from that. We want to listen to our kids and say, oh, what happened? But we don't want to, it's a burden to children. It really just depends. But kids want to be heard and they want to be validated, but they also don't want to be triangulated and pulled in to the parents. And so we can listen and we can validate. But then when we need our validation and our camaraderie, then we go to our people, right? Anyway, so is it possible that she did that? Yeah. That transgression pales in comparison to what he's been doing to the kids.
Bigger than COVID.
No, the boys made this about Robin. That's the only reason she got brought in. I don't think you've ever admitted your culpability in the problems in this family.
This is wild to me that you are blaming me for this.
Yeah. So I keep vacillating between he's genuine here, but massively distorted. And if you hook him up to a lie detector, he would agree with everything that he's saying. He's like, yeah, I'm telling the truth. And he's very distorted because of his relational schemas and traumas that lead him to believe he's being betrayed when he's not being. And all of his emotions come from there, and his behavior comes from that distortion. It's not a hallucination, it's a defense, or it's a filter that we see things through. So I vacillate between that position and if you hooked him up to a lie detector test, which doesn't exist, he would not pass, and he would be discovered as not believing his arguments here, and it would be revealed that he is making shit up so as to escalate conflict so that Janelle will go away. At this point, I'm more the latter. Earlier, I was more and it could be both to some extent, right? Because either way, it makes no sense what he's saying. Like he's making no sense. So either he believes in the nonsense and it's making no sense, or he doesn't believe in the nonsense and he's grabbing at anything to escalate conflict to get Janelle to go away.
I'm not blaming you for everything.
You are the one.
But all I needed was your
You
back.
are the one who
backing
said
me
the
up.
boys cannot come until they apologize.
And I corrected that, and you're
And
not
then you
listening.
said to me,
Stop
no,
that.
you listened
I
to me.
corrected that.
You listened
I
to
even
me.
apologized for that.
No, you did not.
Yes, I did.
No, you did not.
Yes, 4 weeks ago, I apologized for that.
No, you
I
said
we need to get together, and I'll.
At least on camera, we didn't see him apologize. But it is true that he did rescind that or alter it to, well, I guess we just need to have a conversation. He didn't clarify what he meant by that. it's pretty clear what he meant, that it's not an innocuous conversation. It's like if you just take that verbatim, it's just a conversation, big deal. But it seems likely that he would want some respect or some hat in hand from the kids. We don't know that, though, because they never clarified it. Janelle never asked for specifics. And also, even if it is just a conversation, he's the goddamn father, and he needs to reach out to his kids. It's not Janelle's responsibility to be the repairer of his damage. If he loved his kids, he would just call them. That's the bottom line. And the kids know that. Janelle, everyone knows that. And he's trying to make it Janelle's fault. Yeah. Well, he could love the kids, and there's something getting in the way. I've hypothesized about all the things. And Gabe and Garrison might be particularly scary for him because they were, at the beginning of COVID, socializing and stuff. And so if it is a terror hypothesis, if we're in that camp, then his kids would really provoke that, and it could concern him, and it could feel personal. It could be unreasonable that that's happening, but it could make some, anyway.
All it is about talking with them. No. It's not about them apologizing.
No, you said, oh, well, that's after I'd already made my plans. And you're like, oh, well, I guess that was a conversation I had with you a couple times. So I can see where you thought that. I feel like I'm being gaslit. I'm being told that you say something.
You're using that because I used the term.
Oh, I came into this conversation expecting to use that term. Because I feel like you are constantly gaslighting me.
Janelle?
Maybe. I don't know. But gaslighting is an extreme term usually used in clinical literature, which is where it derives from, to refer to an ongoing abusive relationship where you have an abusive individual who is either volitionally or as a byproduct of their distortion that leads to abuse, slowly is making the victim feel like they can't trust their own judgment, or it's the effort to make that true. This doesn't look like that. It could be that. I'm not around all the time. But a different word, or I think what she's using gaslighting for, is that what I've been hypothesizing, that he is in a manipulative, deceptive way trying to break up with Janelle and just grabbing at straws to try to get Janelle to leave him. And she's using the word gaslighting. Even if it were an accurate usage of the word gaslighting, if you're really trying to communicate, especially in a marriage, we want to avoid those kinds of terms and those kind of words because they can be misinterpreted. Just describe it. If Janelle said, I feel like you're trying to manipulate me, or you're trying to get me to break up with you. It seems like you don't want to be with me, and you're trying to make me break up with you so that you can avoid being the bad guy. That's what it seems like. Just say that. Some people might say that's gaslighting, but just don't try to use clinical terms. Plus, in my field, if I have a student who says, I have a client that's gaslighting their wife, I wouldn't just go, okay. I'd go, well, what do you mean by gaslighting? It's just a tag word for a much larger assessment and description. So anyway, but I think it is, if we just look at communication and whether or not they understand each other, she is, I think, trying to say what I think I was saying. And I think I don't know. It's hard to say. It's hard to know, because he might actually think that he's right.
Okay, there's a problem in the family, a problem that needs to be solved, and everything's too hot now, and everybody thinks that I'm the bad guy. And so I don't expect to see anybody at Christmas time. I don't expect to see you.
Verbatim, he's not being constructive, but overall, he is de-escalating. He was the one who escalated, but he's not continuing to escalate, right? He didn't raise his voice and point his finger in her face. So I'll commend him for that. He's in a bit of a woe is me, which makes no sense. He's seemingly from the edit to blame, in my opinion, for a majority, if not all, of everything that's happening. But he's making it out to be that everyone's blaming him unfairly.
Janelle, I saw you right there mock my rules.
Well, and I've seen you call me all kinds of names.
What? That you're lazy about the rules? That you won't accept accountability?
Cody, in the very beginning,
No, you make this
listen to me.
excuse forever, but
Shut your mouth and let me talk to you for a minute.
No.
So I get where Janelle's coming from. She actually was trying to work things out. She, I think, was saying, okay, let me actually tell you, because I've been kind of hoping that would happen, where Janelle would say, let me tell you step by step what I was doing, because you weren't witnessing that. I was trying in the beginning, and here's what I was doing, because I thought there would be a path forward, and I wanted to see you, and I wanted my kids to see you. So here's what I was doing, But then after months and months of that, it seemed like there was no way to work it out with you. So I think she had calmed down a little bit and was actually trying to explain so that he could understand. And then he starts to overtalk. And then because she still has the distress from earlier, and she's like holding it together enough to be able to say, okay, I'll be constructive. Maybe if I just explain. But then just below the surface, because he starts to interrupt her, then she explodes with, you know, fucking. And maybe even what she's trying to say is, I'm trying to help you, you MFer. Like, listen, like I'm actually trying to be nice right now. So just let me talk. But the swearing isn't going to help. The yelling by her, he's been yelling at her, but, and then he is like, I don't know why I was hoping when she started to say that, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, good. And then dashed.
You keep cutting me off.
No.
You keep cutting me off.
There is no interest in understanding each other here. There is no interest in understanding. There is only a bitterness that has no place.
Well, if you're talking about you, yeah. If you're admitting, but I think he's saying her.
I don't expect you to back me up anymore. I'm not going to look for it. I'm not going to ask for it. I don't expect you to try and help us co-parent the kids. That's too late. We're never going to do that.
This is not.
So what partnership do we have?
This is not.
Right. So as expected, eventually we would get to a point where he would start to comment on the validity of their relationship, either because he is at his wit's end, even though he created this, or he set out to actually create conflict so that he could arrive here and make it look like, in his mind, that Janelle is the jerk face for being unreasonable. And if they break up, then he's squeaky clean, which is, I'm just going to take a guess. I mean, wouldn't it be weird if my take is completely opposite and everyone loves him and everyone hates Janelle? I mean, who knows? Sometimes that happens. I highly doubt it, though. I mean, I guess I should comment that when we watch reality TV, we have our own traumas. And there are certain archetypes that are focused on, maybe even cast by these reality TV shows, that are more likely to trigger. I mean, one could argue that the most popular reality TV shows, or many of the most popular, are popular because they trigger the most people. Now, not everyone that enjoys reality TV is watching because they're being triggered by their own past relationships. But maybe what pushes one reality TV show to more seasons and to the upper echelons of viewership is the triggering. And one possibility is that this, even when the family was functioning well in the first few seasons, it was triggering for people because you could potentially, say you were cheated on or you were divorced or broken up with, and you either imagine or you know that your partner, particularly if it was a man, who is now involved with someone else, and you're the one left behind. Well, this show is a very easy template to you know, have those battles in your mind, but just out externally, right? Because the very nature of polygamy, seen from the outside the culture, it looks like a guy who has his cake and eat it too. You know, there was a number of seasons where that question was out there. And so, and you could argue that that is true. You know, it doesn't really matter to this discussion, but I'm saying all that because take care of yourself. You might be triggered by Janelle. You might have had a mom like Janelle, or a sister like her, or a wife like her, or a friend like, I don't know. There's a lot of opportunities to be triggered.
Only me, Cody. Don't you dare point your finger at me.
I've been here day long, in and out, for all these years without your support, while you were deciding what you were doing without consulting me.
You know what? Let me tell you what. No, you stay and talk.
I'm done listening to you.
You stay and talk.
No, I'm not going to, because you're...
On some level, if they're not going to be constructive, or if one of them isn't going to be constructive, then maybe it's best that he goes. I mean, I actually kind of hope he does go. Not that she deserves to be rejected and run off, but I just don't see it working. Even when they're having a calm conversation like they did last season at dinner, even in when they weren't fighting, he was seemingly trying to get her to see that their marriage was invalid and was trying to point out all the negatives. And she was, you know, well, you're my best friend. I love you. You know, and he's like, wait, this isn't working. So I just can't imagine this working. You know, in the beginning, they would have fights, not usually with Janelle, but he would have just a completely different approach. You know, when there would be fights with Christine or Mary, it was just a completely different man. He was soft. You could argue that there were moments of rigidity, you know, like that whole it's vulgar to think about you with another man, that kind of, anyway. You know, it wasn't like all fun and games, but he was soft. He would try to work with them. He would hold hands. He would smile. He would kiss. He would spend time with. He was warm. He would compliment. He would, you know, love. And there's been none of that towards Janelle or Christine or Mary for years. So, anyway, now using it as a jumping off point, she doesn't want him to go. She wants to continue talking. I would wonder what she thinks will be accomplished. It's fine though, but she tried to grab him. No, if someone is walking out of the room, do not grab them. Never grab. It is a flashpoint for violence. If you do manage to grab them, and you know they're that upset and they feel imprisoned, naturally, they could strike you. Not okay. Don't do that. Use your words. No, don't go. Well, let's talk. Don't grab.
Not listening.
You're not listening to me.
And I'm not going to.
Okay, so we're done?
Goodbye.
You. Shut it off.
I think she's telling the camera people to shut it off. She said, fuck you. Yeah. What do I think? I think he doesn't want to be married to her, whether he knows it or not. And if, I don't know, I guess there's a possibility they'll make up or they'll find another equilibrium or something. But it looks to me that they are doomed because of him. And he can't just admit it to himself, or he can't just come out with it. And so the sooner the better that Janelle actually does pull the trigger and break up, the better. You know, and it's typically it's going to be messy, and there's going to be hurt and confusion and anger and harsh words, unfortunately. So I guess maybe this is even a good thing, big picture.
I'm cutting cameras.
I'm actually glad that they did turn off the cameras, it seems. In other shows, 90 Day Fiancé, we will see in the edit the cast saying, okay, I'm done. Or they'll lock themselves in a bathroom, clearly communicating they don't want to be on the show anymore. I remember with Married at First Sight, you know, that one guy was like wanting to go home, and he got in the elevator and they wouldn't let him leave. They were like cornering him in the elevator, and he started to be like, get away from me. and they wouldn't. I was like paparazzi shit. I was like, whoa, no, not okay. So it's nice to see that she said, turn it off. And they did. Yeah, that's good. And it would make sense that this show would have those kinds of boundaries given the family members and the kids because for so many seasons, there was hardly any salacious stuff. And the way they edited it, there was some shenanigansy stuff, but it was seemingly just trying to show the family in even a kind of positive light, right? But, maybe just accurate family documentation. So, because I know, or I believe based on evidence and also hearing from people in production that different shows and even different directors and showrunners within a show have different ethics regarding how to treat the cast.
So Cody just left.
All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please, truly, take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.